G'day there guys, Markee here, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Arsehole with updates. Let's go. Am I the arsehole for not letting my daughter play with my neighbour's kids? So I have a daughter 6 who plays outside every day. She usually hangs around the same group of kids. One of these kids we'll call Jared, who is 5-ish male, and Jared's parents are neglectful to say the least. He will show up outside wearing the same outfit for days in a row, visibly dirty, and constantly trying to stick toys in his mouth. His parents are capable of bathing and changing him, they are just too lazy and spend their time drinking. When any of us, the neighbours, try to help, we get yelled at, saying that we're embarrassing their family, insulting their parenting, etc., etc. Well, yesterday, I noticed my boy is scratching his head. I'm not talking a light scratch, I mean he's really going at it. I instantly knew what that scratch was from and called my daughter and niece over. They tell me no, their heads haven't itched, but I checked anyways and lo and behold, lice. I immediately called them inside and go to the pharmacy to get lice shampoo because that crap spreads like wildfire, and no thank you. I get the girls treated and everything is good. Today rolls around and it's raining, so no outside time. Neighborhood kids know they're welcome in our house, so usually they just stroll in with a quick hello and start playing. When Jared comes in, I immediately tell him he has to go home. I don't tell him why, I just say gently that he can't stay over today. He runs out crying, and about 5 minutes later his parents show up demanding to know why I won't let him inside. I told them he has lice, and I don't want it getting in my house. They both proceed to yell and scream about how I could say that, saying I'm calling their son dirty, and how it's not fair the other kids can play inside, but theirs can't. I told them the reason the other kids could play, and theirs couldn't, is because I talked with their parents and all kids have been checked and cleared or treated. After listening to them berate me, I more or less told them it's not my fault they'd rather buy alcohol than clean up their son and buy him lice treatment. They called me an asshole for not letting their son in, and finally left. My husband says I could have been kinder about it, but after months of washing this kid up when he's over, feeding him because his parents forget, and even washing his clothes, I'm tired of being a third parent to a child I hold no relationship to. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Also wanted to add CPS is not a thing in my country, police won't do anything as the child isn't in immediate harm. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I may be the asshole for outcasting a child for something out of his control. Now in the comments, your job is to protect your child and your home, and that's just what you are doing. I feel bad for that other kid having those kinds of parents. If those parents would actually care for their child, they'd have nothing to be embarrassed about. They are only embarrassing themselves. And OP says, they are very embarrassing. It's scary to see just how little they care for him. He didn't ask to be in this world, yet they act like he ruined their lives. If you are willing to deal with the potential fallout, i.e. angry parents, it might be worth to call CPS or your equivalent to try to get a wellness check on a kid who is clearly being neglected. But that's not your job, and I would not demand anyone but mandatory reporters to make that call. Not the asshole, whatever you do. Not the asshole. Would it be possible to give the boy the same treatment that you gave your girls? I know he's not your kid, but I doubt the parents will actually cure him. Again, no obligation to do so, but if you have extra shampoo, that would be very kind. OP says, my husband says we should let him in and treat his hair. But I'm afraid of what his parents would do because kids do talk, and I'm not sure how effective it would be seeing as they wouldn't pay for laundry service to have his clothes and sheets properly washed. Maybe I'll try the old school combing his hair daily and see if it helps. Good thought, but it won't help unless you keep him out of his own house. I was in a school, and the nurse was treating a kid for lice. Nurse told me that she treated this kid regularly because her house was infested. Yes, I'm sure all it would do is temporary relief, which isn't enough in a situation like this. Poor kid. Not the asshole for not letting him in because lice frickin' suck. I feel bad for that little boy. And OP replies, my heart breaks when I see him. He's constantly running on the road and motorcycles drive fast. I'm afraid if he gets hurt, his parents either won't care or will just want the payout. I just don't understand why they won't let us help. And now onto the update. First off, I just want to say thank you to all the kind people who gave me advice. One comment stood out to me and gave me a really good idea, and after talking with my husband, we got some things together and got it handled. Yesterday, me and my husband went to Jared's house and spoke with his parents. I basically said that I was to blame for the lice, and I apologized profusely for the trouble I had caused. I said as an apology, I'd like to have their house deep cleaned. I'm talking treatments on all furniture, carpet, anything and everything lice could be on. I said I'd personally take all of their clothes to the laundry shop to be treated, and I'd like to bring Jared to my house to treat his head myself, as well as give them the shampoo and medicine to treat themselves. They saw my offer as very generous and accepted. So we spent the entire day treating their clothes, Jared, and even bought a few drinks to keep them distanced while we treated Jared. Jared got a meal, got cleaned up, and all is well in the neighborhood again. Now he is welcome inside my house to play and get his belly full. Again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented. Doing these things weren't cheap, but it was well worth it to have that sweet boy taken care of. And now in the comments, how very kind of you. I'm sure this meant the world to Jared. Good on you. And OP says, he was thrilled. Poor thing had blisters. Not sure the proper word, sorry, from scratching his head so much. You could see the relief. That little boy is going to remember you throughout his entire life as the woman who opened her heart and home to him when his own parents weren't competent enough to help him. That was immensely generous and tactful of you. I'm glad that kid has you in their corner. And OP says, I got the idea from a comment on my original post. They said their mom had done the same thing just to get a little girl out of a bad situation. I knew I wanted to treat his hair, but it would have been useless if his bedclothes and clothes weren't done too. Thank you for your kind words. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for inserting myself into someone else's dinner situation? Okay, I know the title is confusing, but hear me out. I went out to eat with my boyfriend and 2 other couples. For some context, I am a mother to a 5-year-old, who is not my boyfriend's child. So, 2 tables away was a new parent couple, and what I can only assume was the guy's parents. I assumed this because I was that girl when I first had my child. Out to dinner with your father's child and his family, and baby is being fussy. You are struggling, and no one is helping you. Baby's crying for about 15 minutes now, all while the father, or no one else for that matter, is offering her any help or a break so she can at least have a bite of her food that's been sitting there cold for about 30 minutes. I really just wanted to run to her, grab the baby for a bit, and tell her to eat. This is where I might have been an asshole. Baby is crying, again, no one is paying attention, and she goes to comfort the baby and breastfeed. Well, all of a sudden, she's the center of attention. Baby's father says, "What are you doing? That's disgusting. Go to a stall in the bathroom." At this point, I lost it. My boyfriend was trying to calm me down the entire time, telling me it's none of my business, but I just went ham. I got up from my table, walked over, and I told him if he found it so disgusting, why doesn't he go eat his sandwich on the toilet? I said she's been struggling, hasn't had a bite to eat while all 3 of you sit there enjoying yourselves and letting her drown. And then I said loud enough that the tables around could hear that anyone who is offended by a woman breastfeeding needs to get checked, because breasts weren't for men to suck on for pleasure, they were made for feeding, and that's exactly what she's doing. No one said anything, but she also didn't go to the bathroom, and she finished her baby, who calmed down, and she was able to eat. My boyfriend is upset I caused a scene in front of some of his friends and everyone really at the restaurant, but I just couldn't sit back and watch and say nothing. So Reddit, am I the asshole for inserting myself and yelling at strangers? Now in the comments, not the asshole. You waited, assessed the situation, and responded accordingly. I think if anything, the fact that she continued to feed her child proved just how thankful she was for blowing up on them. There was a time in the US where breastfeeding in public was normal and not demonized as disgusting behavior. It's normal in other parts of the world. Not the asshole. Your boyfriend is, however. If he is more worried about causing a scene than sitting there and watching this poor woman struggle and get berated for feeding her baby, then he ought to be checked as well. God forbid you were ever in a situation where you were struggling, like, would he rather you struggle than somebody defend you? You rock, OP. There is a good amount of assholes in this story, but you are not one of them. That caused a scene quip bothered me. OP didn't cause that. The scene was already taking place. She effectively ended the scene by getting involved as she did. The boyfriend's willingness to berate OP for coming to another woman's defense like that really shows his true colors in my opinion, and makes me think that he would very much leave OP to drown if she were the breastfeeding woman in the scenario. Life pro tip, if you defend someone who is in a shitty, bullying situation, like the young mother was here, and the person you were with witnesses the bullying and then chides you for speaking up against it, that witness is part of the problem. A volunteer flying monkey. Not the asshole, and I think you're amazing. No, it wasn't any of your business, but it's important to stand up for people. It says a lot about your character. Good for you. I know, right? I want to be friends with OP. She sounds like a badass in a wonderful way. Not the asshole, of course. You're amazing for doing that. I bet she will remember that forever, and I know I would. Also, women should support and stick up for other women, which is exactly what you did. Super proud of you over here. And sorry, but your boyfriend sounds like public opinion is more important to him than doing what you feel is right. That's a problem. Your boyfriend's attitude and quiet complicity are how all these abusive status quos, like systemic sexism and racism, stay in place, not the asshole. And OP replies, "Thank you so much. And to everyone, really. I definitely could have been nicer, but as someone who was out in that position, I just couldn't help myself. I spoke to my boyfriend, and he says that I embarrassed him and wants me to now apologize to his friends. I told him no because I don't think that saying something for her was wrong. None of his friends or him have kids, so I feel like they just don't get it. New mum struggle. I did, and never got any help or anyone to stand up for me. It took years of therapy, I'm still in therapy, to realize I was doing the most and exhausting myself, and everyone, most importantly my daughter's dad, was doing the least." Yeah, if your boyfriend is embarrassed by you doing that, sounds like he's no catch. Having a baby is hard as hell. We need help. We cannot do it alone. My daughter is 7, and even now I'm like, wait a minute, why am I the only one who does this task or thing? I have a husband too, and he actually does a lot, but there is still the mental load, and I do all emotional labor for her and myself because he is a robot in that area. It sucks and it's really hard. I'm sending you and the poor restaurant woman good vibes. And OP replies to that, "Thank you so much. That's the same thing with my daughter's father. He's great with her. We successfully co-parent and all that, but at the end of the day, I'm doing most of the emotional labor. My daughter's dad has to call me every time she has a bad day at school, or anything really to comfort her. I jokingly asked him what was her pediatrician's name. She's been seeing him since 6 months, and he had no idea. It is easy to dismiss the minimal work we do, but that's what keeps things going." And now back up to the post. Just some clarification after all the comments. I do agree and feel terrible that I could have put her in a position to get yelled at later. That wasn't my intention. I saw red, mostly because I have been through exactly this and have gone home in tears and feeling alone. I would normally not get into anyone's business. I appreciate all your feedback, and for sure, next time I feel the urge to say something, I'm going to take a breath and find a better way to communicate that doesn't put anyone in danger or interrupt other people. My boyfriend is still not talking to me until I apologize, because again, I embarrassed him, regardless of the reason. I feel like I should just send a text to his friends and keep it moving. And now on to the update. Wow guys, thank you for all the responses, support, advice, and criticism. These past 24 hours have been crazy, so here is a quick update. I mentioned in a previous comment, but will say again, that the young mum did give me a smile as we were saying our goodbyes in the parking lot and they were leaving. In terms of this situation, like I said, I could have had more tact and really hoped that I didn't expose her to more abuse in retaliation. As for my boyfriend, well, now ex, because he broke up, well, told me that he needed space with me. I showed him the thread and this is what happened. 1. Super pissed that I posted on here. Why am I putting our business on the internet? and basically I wanted people to turn against him? What? And more attention than I already took at the restaurant. 2. One of his friends is very conservative, and while his friend didn't actually say anything to my ex, he says his friend was definitely offended by the breastfeeding at the table because it is not hygienic. He doesn't agree that she should have gone to the bathroom, but it wasn't the appropriate place to feed. And 3, one of the things he liked about me was how I kept my mum life separate from my relationship with him, and that while he was weirded out that I never invited him to my house the entire time we've been dating, which has been 2 years, he appreciated not having to be involved because he has never wanted kids. He doesn't like them. So basically, I set a boundary from the beginning of no kid stuff, and I crossed it at the restaurant and made a big scene in front of his friends, who he says were also embarrassed but weren't going to say anything. So, like, this is all still going on. I'm a bit sad, like maybe I did do the most, but also I'm like, F him. Since me and my daughter's dad split 50-50, I can see how someone can see me and not realize that I'm a whole-ass mother. The reason I don't let people I'm dating come to my house is because at the end of the day, I don't know these people from Adam. Like, did you torture animals as a child? I don't know. Shrug. And rather than expose my daughter to variables, guys' characters or behaviors, I prefer if they don't have access. I know it may sound crazy or weird, but when I was in college, a guy I dated would show up to my apartment drunk, yelling for me outside my window. So I'm not leaving the door even cracked for something like this to happen and my daughter to be home with me. She would be terrified. So what he said was he needed a break, and I just said, let's not do this at all because it's not gonna work. For sure, I set boundaries with my kid, but if anything involving my kid is a problem, then we aren't going to work, because again, I am a mother. And even on my days off, I'm on call because anything can happen, and I need to be there regardless. Thank you guys for all of your responses. It's hard sometimes when things blow up like this to whisk away the bullcrap and see things for what they are. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for asking my sister and brother-in-law to move out after 3 years of supporting them after family tragedy? About 3 years ago, my sister and her husband lost 3 young children in a really bad car accident. My sister barely survived but pulled through. They had 2 daughters who were 8, 6, and a 3-year-old son. I won't go into specifics surrounding the accident or their deaths because it's quite frankly horrific. My sister and I are 10 months apart and have always been extremely close. At the time of my nieces' and nephews' deaths, I was living alone in a 3-bedroom home and offered for them to live with me. They were both, understandably, too unable to function to go back to work, and we all needed each other. I didn't want them to have to worry about money or losing their home after what had happened. I have supported them emotionally and financially pretty much ever since it happened. They both refuse to go to therapy and still both aren't working. I have a good job, but it's not an easily manageable thing, and I didn't really expect it to go on so long. About 1.5 years ago, I met my current fiancé. We clicked immediately and got engaged 6 months later. We are due to get married next October. I've been trying to drop hints to my sister about why wanting my house back to myself to live in with my fiancé, but she is not picking up on it. My fiancé has grown increasingly frustrated with me, saying I'm obviously being taken advantage of. Last weekend, I straight up told my sister that I needed to talk to her and told her that I wanted my house back and to live with my partner alone before getting married and starting to have children. She got upset and went running to our mum, who called me an asshole for not considering how my sister would feel about that. It hasn't been mentioned since, but both my sister and brother-in-law are hardly talking to me. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. 3 years is long enough. If they still aren't ready to go out on their own, your mother can take them in. It sounds like the mum is volunteering to take them in herself. Clear not the asshole. There is literally no amount of time that's going to make the OP's sister feel better. Death of your children is not a thing that you get over, no matter if you go 1 billion hours of therapy. I'm not saying it would be wasteful or that therapy is useless, just that having therapy or not is irrelevant in this scenario of the moving out request. Given this, it is unreasonable to expect OP will have to sacrifice her life / put it on hold indefinitely to defer to someone else. OP's sister should be very grateful and in turn be supportive. Not the asshole. What are their plans for the future besides to mooch off of you? It's been 3 years. It's completely fair for you to ask them what their plans are. Yes, they went through something horrible, but you have been incredibly accommodating and have given them lots of time to heal. Giving you silent treatment in your own home is unacceptable. And OP replies, they never talk about the future. I have absolutely no idea what their plans are. I think it's time for that conversation. Call a house meeting, sit them down and ask them what they plan on doing in the near and distant future. They'll accuse you of all sorts of terrible things, but it's been 3 years. Time has not stood still, even if they want to believe that it has. Not the asshole. And furthermore, they will likely never break out of this cycle unless they are forced to. In the long run, this will be much better for them. Maybe have a talk with your mom so she understands more clearly and doesn't become the next roommate. OP replies, I've spoken to my mum about it, but she's also pretty much refuses to talk about it. Well, screw it then. Sell the house and move in with your fiancé. They will figure themselves out really quick. That's the most expensive conflict avoidance I've ever seen. I mean, if it were my house, I would have not let it go for 3 years. OP seems extremely conflict avoidant, so here we are. Don't go there. OP could have been the best person in the world at enforcing their boundaries prior to their niece's and nephew's death. OP, like their sister and brother-in-law, suffered a horrible traumatic loss a few years ago. I'd be surprised if they hadn't slipped into some unhealthy family dynamics while coping and grieving. They shouldn't tolerate this, but there is no need to attack OP's character because of it. And now onto the update. Thank you all for the comments and messages I've received over the last day. They've really been appreciated. I had a talk with my sister last night and it began the usual way, with her avoiding the situation. I told her if she left and wasn't able to have an adult conversation, I would be forced either to take legal action or sell the house. Both empty threats, but it worked. She broke down, told me she knew she needed help, but didn't want to accept it, and that she'd be willing to go even if her husband doesn't. I haven't talked to her much about leaving, but her admitting that she needs help is a huge step, so I'm not going to push for more just yet. Thank you for all of your help. Anyway guys, that is where I'm going to end the episode for today. If you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up on this video. I would love you so much for that. Do it, come on. Go down there and do it before you leave, please. But, as always, with that said, you're beautiful, you're doing a good job today, I'm proud of you. And as always, I do hope you're having a good day, or night, or sleep, or just whatever the heck you're up to, and I will see you in the next episode. Until then, bye.